The UK, where it is a day of potential jeopardy for Prime Minister Boris Johnson. Today, after the weekly Prime Minister's questions in the House of Commons, he'll then face a parliamentary grilling over charges of sleaze within his party. MPs on Parliament's cross-party select committees will quiz Johnson to take stock of government policy. These sessions are typically held 3 times a year. For Boris Johnson, this is the 6th session since becoming Prime Minister in mid-2019. Allegations of sleaze in his Conservative Party will feature, as will how the behaviour of MPs should be policed. We can cross now to London correspondent Benji Hire for more. And Benji, first of all, talk us through exactly how today plays out, because there's a lot going on.
There is, Ollie. Following a fortnight of pretty uncomfortable headlines for this government, which has led to the resignation of one MP already, this is due to be another pretty difficult day for the Prime Minister. As you mentioned, he faces questions in the House of Commons, firstly in Prime Minister's questions against the leader of the opposition Labour Party. He's then in front of that liaison committee looking specifically at propriety and ethics in government, before an evening with his party backbenchers and his colleagues there likely to be raging at how his proposals, his plans, might be leaving them out of pocket. You could recall that all of this kind of stems from an incident with one particular former minister, Owen Paterson, who was found to have breached lobbying rules, and instead of resigning immediately, there was a concerted effort by Number 10 to try to amend the investigation process. That didn't quite go to plan. There was a U-turn about 24 hours afterwards, and that's landed Downing Street in the situation we have now, with a quite difficult couple of hours ahead for the Prime Minister.
And Boris Johnson's proposed reforms, the latest proposed reforms to the MP's standard system and the proposed changes to rules over second jobs for lawmakers, what exactly is he now suggesting?
Yeah, that's right. Mr Johnson's plan specifically looking at a ban on MPs accepting paid work as parliamentary advisors, strategists or consultants. He goes on to add that he wants a new rule that MPs' outside work should be within reasonable limits and should not prevent them from fully carrying out their range of duties that they would normally be expected to do as an MP. But within that, no specific details as to what exactly that means in terms of what jobs they can and can't do. You'd assume, for example, that if you want to do extra shifts as a doctor, then that's pretty allowable. What about if you wanted to, for example, work for a private company and give them advice there? That's not quite parliamentary advice, but it is still a second job. So that needs definite clarifying from the government. But the opposition fears that a lot of this is kind of going to be kicked into the long grass, that this could go on for weeks and weeks on end. There's still no exact timeline as to when this would be brought in. And again, there needs to be questions answered as to which specific jobs would be covered, or whether, in effect, MPs would still be allowed to take jobs at private companies, as dozens currently do.
Well, you touched on it there, Benji. What are the opposition Labour Party saying about Boris Johnson's proposals? Because weren't they suggesting something pretty similar, and we have a vote today as well?
Officially, yes, they were proposing something similar, so much that the government's line is that they're going further than Labour's proposals. But the Labour Party's leader, Sir Keir Starmer, has been pretty firm on this recently. He said that he wants a ban on all second jobs for MPs with very limited exceptions. So he's arguing that he's going even further and that the government are not actually doing enough. A lot of that will be kind of fought out in the debate in the next couple of hours. But what Boris Johnson also has to contend with is opposition not from the benches where the Labour MPs sit, but also his own. As I mentioned at the start, he has that meeting later this afternoon with parliamentarians from his own party, and it's there where a number of his own MPs, many of whom have been alleged to have worked for different companies, will be parliamentary asking specifically which jobs will be permitted and not. And there seems to be this sort of rift, this divide in the party between older traditionalists who maybe see it as kind of more tolerable to go about their work as an MP and also get some money on the side taking another job, and younger MPs newly elected who feel passionately about representing their constituents. And he needs to really make sure that bridge is divided so that he has the full support of his own party.
OK, Benji, thank you. That's Benji Hire reporting from London.